But, my name's Kenneth Holdren, and I did the accounting internship with Vicki Blankenship in the accounts receivables office, and she's sitting right over there. The first thing I would like to discuss with you is kind of how to find an internship. The first thing I would do would be to check with Mr. Fazio, because he is the internship coordinator for the Division of Business. He should be able to give you information like what parts of campus might be offering internships or past organizations that have taken on interns. You can also research on your own. If you want to go by some local businesses that you would like to intern with, it never hurts to ask some questions. Or if you're already employed somewhere, you can ask them. They can probably find a place for you to work. The next important part is the interview process. It's really important that you treat that like you're interviewing for a full-time position. You should dress professionally, and you should bring a resume with you, and just put yourself out there, answer the questions, just tell them why you can help them and why you want to work there. And then after that, it's just kind of follow through. You need to come register for the course, get your internship packet, and have your employer help you fill it out, and fill out your employment information, like your taxes, your W-2s, and things like that. And then here's just a basic organizational chart for where I worked. I'm just going to talk about, like, here's Victoria Blankenship, that's who supervised me, and she works with accounts receivables. Angela Taylor and Debbie Myers work under her, and Debbie Myers works in the cashier's office. I'm sure most of you have seen her. And Angie has her own office adjacent to the business office. It's on the hallway right next to it. And of course, I'm here at the bottom, because if you're an intern, you're not going to be over anybody. And then here's just some basic information about Concord. They were established in 1872 and were actually a single building where Athens Middle School is located now. But unfortunately, that building burned down, so they had to relocate to where we are currently located, and they built the Marsh Hall building, or AD building. Since then, they've expanded. They've built dormitories, other buildings like the Fine Arts building, and most recently here in Ray Hall and University Point. And they've also expanded the degrees they offer. It used to be primarily an education college, but now they offer things like business, math, science. I mean, you guys have seen there's a lot of different courses you can major in here. The primary service offered by Concord would be higher education, and they offer a liberal arts degree. Liberal arts is basically just a degree that offers you a wide range of classes so that you have a broader knowledge and understanding when you graduate. They offer a bachelor's in the arts and sciences, a master's in education, an associate's in the arts, a regent's degree, and they're working on a master's in social work, which should be available soon. And then I just have some basic figures about the cost of attendance, because that's paying for this service. In-state tuition is $2,858 a semester, while out-of-state is $6,349 a semester, and room and board is $3,693 for both types of student. Here's a list of some of the duties I performed in my internship. The most basic one is data entry. And basically all that is you work in a dual accounting systems, which is Banner is the in-house system and FIMS is the state system. And you just enter like mass amounts of transactions, and after you put them in Banner, you have to send them to the state through FIMS to be processed. This doesn't sound very important, but after you do like 2 or 3 of these, sometimes you're putting in like over $1 million worth of money at a time. Then after that, I worked in revenue recognition, which is you just recognize the revenue as it's earned and place it in its appropriate accounts. And then account reconciliation is just ensuring that account balances are correct and accounted for. And a very important part of this is deferred revenue. And this is when you give advance credit for something that you don't have the money for yet. A very good example of this is the Pell Grant, which I'm sure many of you may receive. Basically, we will give credit to students for that before we have any of the funds for it. And what happens is you end up with a clearing account that just has like a lump sum of money in it. And that's money that you haven't received yet, but you've credited. And then as you receive the funds, you disperse them out to their appropriate places, and that reduces the deferred revenue. So ideally, by the end of the year, you shouldn't have any deferred revenue left because you've paid it all out and it's went where it's supposed to. The next thing that I worked with was payroll. And I'm sure all you know what payroll is, but I just produced like the payroll worksheet, which is an Excel document that has all the employees on it, and it lists like their income and their taxes and things. And I had to compute the employee and employer payroll liabilities, which is like the taxes. And then after that, I had to reconcile that against the payroll expense to make sure that they were the same. And then I had to send money to the appropriate agency that paid the employees and bill the grants that supplied the money to receive the funds. And that's where invoicing comes in. I had to use the payroll worksheet to get my amounts and send invoices to the appropriate grants to bill them for the money that they owed the employees, and then we had to pay it out. Then after that, like audit sample collection, all that is where like auditors will send you a list of samples, like invoices that they need to look at to ensure that they're done correctly. So I just had to go through a bunch of files and paperwork and find the exact invoices that they needed and make copies to be sent to them. And then I worked in bank deposits and checks. I mean, that's just filling out deposit slips and getting people to sign their checks so we can cash them and have them deposited. And then I just did basic office work, you know, filing, making copies, made Excel documents and things like that. Some of the problems that I ran into was we had an issue with the federal book loans where the amount that we had paid out wasn't matching the account balances. So I had to go through and look at the individual students and check to make sure the money they received matched the money that they were supposed to. And then I was basically checked them off if they were right and put aside anybody that was wrong so Vicki could look through them and find out what had been done wrong. And then during the audit, a lot of the times the auditors are very vague with what samples they need. Like they'll just give you like a person's name and a money amount. So you have to kind of figure out where that person works, and then you just have to dig through stacks of paper to find that amount and that person's name. And then there's data entry mistakes. I mean, all that is people might have math errors, might transpose numbers, look at the wrong line. I mean, it doesn't sound important, but when you're dealing with that much money, you just have to go through and look at every single entry and make sure that they're correct until the accounts balance out. And then I put the coffee pot on here because the business office has the most complicated coffee pot I've ever had to try to use. Eventually, Vicki had to just show me how to work it. But good for you guys, she said she's just going to show new people how to work it from now on because everybody down there relies on coffee pretty much all the time. Some of the pertinent courses I took was, of course, Principles of Accounting, because that just explains like your debits and your credits. It shows you the different kinds of accounts, like accounts receivables and payables and revenues. And then accounting information systems and business productivity software is important because the software class introduces you to like Excel and Access, but accounting information systems does that and introduces you to accounting software like QuickBooks, and I had to use that in my internship, and I'd never done that before. And then state and federal taxation comes in handy on payroll because it helps you understand like why certain amounts of taxes are being withheld at like certain percentages. So I would encourage anybody in here to take an internship if you have the opportunity because you get hands-on experience that you can't get in the classroom, and it just kind of introduces you to what it's going to be like after you graduate and you find a career. And I guess that's all I have to say, so does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Ken?
Did you like what you did?
Yeah, it made me feel better about accounting because it just made me show that I'd be able to do it, because just taking the classes, you just feel like you're not going to be able to do it when you get out into the actual business world.
All of the things that you did and several of the things that Danny did, and I don't think you realize, all relate back to the accounting. The spreadsheets, the balancing of what you're calling deferred, all of that information has to be balanced. Danny's primary job with the asset listings was to work with depreciation in order to balance the new assets purchased. You're working with revenue, and again, when we recognize revenue, because Concord is still on a cash basis, for our daily operations, we we operate on a cash basis. We convert to accrual at year end. So it's very complex at year end, and what you're doing, keeping things balanced as you go through is a critical operation.
So,
Thank you, Kent.